In just 10 minutes, get the most explosive moments from Joe Rogan's conversation with my favorite comedian, Kurt Metzger. From the war on comedy to woke censorship and AI's terrifying grip on reality, these 10 takeaways will shock you. Stay till the end. This one gets wild. Takeaway 1. The problem with cancel culture. Cancel culture has become a tool to destroy people's careers over past statements, often ignoring context or intent. What started as a way to hold people accountable has now turned into a way to silence certain opinions. Comedians are one of the biggest targets of cancel culture because their job is to push boundaries and challenge ideas. Jokes that were acceptable years ago are now used against them, even if their intention was never to harm anyone. Many people self-censor out of fear, avoiding certain topics even in private conversations. It has created a culture where people are always walking on eggshells, afraid that one wrong word could ruin their reputation. The outrage is often selective. Some celebrities and public figures get completely canceled, while others are forgiven for similar or even worse behavior. It all depends on who is in control of the narrative. This environment has made it difficult for comedy and entertainment in general. People are less willing to take risks, leading to bland, predictable content that tries to please everyone. For example, Dave Chappelle faced massive backlash for his jokes about certain topics, yet his live shows continue to sell out. This shows that most people do not support cancel culture, but a small and loud group dictates what is acceptable. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2. How social media manipulates opinions. Social media is not just a neutral space where people share their thoughts. It is a system designed to control what people see and influence what they believe. Algorithms push the most extreme and divisive content to keep users engaged. This creates an illusion that the world is more divided than it actually is. People often assume that whatever is trending on platforms like Twitter reflects the opinion of the majority. In reality, it is often just a few thousand accounts, many of which are bots or activists pushing an agenda. The media picks up on these social media trends and reports them as if they represent what the general public thinks, further spreading a distorted version of reality. Outrage is a business model. Social media companies make more money when people are angry because they stay online longer, arguing and engaging with posts. For example, when a celebrity gets canceled online, the outrage often disappears within a few days. However, the damage to their reputation and career can last for years, all because a manipulated online trend made it seem like everyone was against them. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, the decline of modern masculinity. Masculinity is being criticized and redefined in a way that has left many men feeling lost. Society no longer celebrates traditional male traits, labeling them as toxic instead of recognizing their value. Young men are growing up in a world that tells them they should not be too aggressive, too ambitious, or too confident. The result is a generation of men who struggle to find their identity. The lack of strong male role models has contributed to this issue. With fathers being less involved in their children's lives and male teachers being less common, many boys grow up without guidance. This confusion has led to serious problems, including higher rates of depression, loneliness, and even violent behavior among young men. Instead of addressing these issues, the media continues to demonize masculinity, making it even harder for men to figure out their place in the world. For example, studies show that men are falling behind in education and mental health. Yet most public discussions focus on reducing so-called toxic masculinity instead of helping men develop in a positive way. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, the absurdity of identity politics. Identity politics has turned people into walking labels rather than individuals. Everything is now about race, gender, or sexuality instead of personal character and abilities. Instead of promoting equality, this mindset encourages division by making people focus on differences rather than shared values. Many comedians and entertainers feel pressure to avoid certain jokes or topics because even lighthearted humor can be seen as offensive, depending on who it targets. Public conversations have become scripted, with people choosing their words carefully to avoid backlash, rather than speaking honestly. Identity politics creates double standards. Certain groups are allowed to say or do things that others would be punished for, leading to resentment and frustration. For example, in Hollywood, casting decisions are now often based on meeting diversity quotas rather than finding the best actor for the role. While representation is important, forcing it at the expense of quality only creates more division. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5. Why Hollywood is failing. Hollywood has prioritized political messaging over storytelling, leading to a decline in the quality of movies and TV shows. Many modern films and shows feel more like lectures than entertainment. Instead of letting diversity and representation happen naturally, they are forced into scripts in ways that feel unnatural. Audiences are rejecting this approach, as seen in the failure of big-budget films that try to push an agenda rather than tell a good story. The rise of independent content creators shows that people prefer authenticity over corporate-approved messaging. Hollywood blames its failures on the audience, calling them sexist, racist, or closed-minded, instead of admitting that they are simply making bad content. For example, many recent remakes and reboots of classic films have failed because they focus more on political correctness than on engaging storytelling. We're halfway through the video. Thank you for sticking with us this far. If you're enjoying it, please give us a thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. To see more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. The hypocrisy of mainstream media. Mainstream media is no longer about reporting facts. It is about pushing narratives that serve specific interests. Journalists often frame stories in ways that support a particular political or corporate agenda, rather than presenting all sides fairly. Fear and outrage drive viewership, so the media prioritizes shocking or controversial headlines over real journalism. People are losing trust in mainstream media because they see how biased it has become. More people now turn to independent sources for news. Media outlets claim to fight misinformation but regularly spread false stories when it benefits them. For example, stories that were dismissed as conspiracy theories in the past, like government surveillance programs, were later revealed to be true. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. How stand-up comedy is changing. Stand-up comedy is struggling because of political correctness, but it is also evolving as comedians find new ways to reach their audience. Many comedians now avoid performing on TV or in mainstream venues because of censorship. Instead, they release specials on platforms like YouTube, where they have more freedom. Audiences are split between those who prefer safe comedy and those who want raw, unfiltered jokes. The best comedians are the ones who refuse to censor themselves, knowing that real fans will support them. Stand-up comedy is becoming more independent, with comedians building direct relationships with their audiences rather than relying on networks. For example, Louis C.K., despite being canceled, continued to sell out shows because his fans appreciate his honesty and humor. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. The dangers of AI and deepfakes. Artificial intelligence is creating a world where it is becoming harder to tell what is real and what is fake. Deepfake technology can create videos of people saying things they never actually said, which could be used for propaganda or personal attacks. AI-generated content can spread misinformation, making it more difficult for people to trust anything they see online. Governments and corporations could use AI to shape public opinion in ways that people do not even realize. While AI has benefits, its ability to manipulate reality is a serious concern. For example, some political campaigns are already using AI to create fake endorsements or spread false information. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. Why people are rejecting woke culture. Woke culture started with good intentions but has become something many people now push back against. Instead of encouraging progress, it often focuses on shaming and punishing people for their past mistakes. It creates a fear-based environment where people are afraid to express their opinions. Instead of fixing real social issues, it often turns into empty virtue signaling. Companies that go all in on woke marketing have faced backlash because people are tired of being lectured. For example, brands that tried to force political messages into their advertising have seen a drop in sales and engagement. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. The rise of independent voices. More people are turning to independent creators for entertainment and news. Podcasts and online shows offer real conversations without corporate interference. People prefer authenticity over scripted, politically correct content. The biggest entertainers today are those who built their audience by being honest and unfiltered. For example, Joe Rogan himself became the world's biggest podcaster by refusing to censor his conversations. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit like below and share this video in your WhatsApp groups. You can also discuss about this video by commenting below. To get more such videos in your timeline, press the subscribe button below.